Guys, it's announced Minecraft 1.17 is going to be called Caves and Cliffs Update. If you watched my video from prior today, that was one of the leaked information about it. And in today's video, we will be covering all the new changes announced about 1.17 and talking about how these changes will affect the game. Let's get right into it. And don't forget to subscribe for all the upcoming snapshot reviews of 1.17. So with the Caves and Cliffs update, it means that we are going to get new mountains with the generation changing as you go higher and higher up it. Now since mountains were chosen, we have the goat mob added as well. You see these things can jump extremely high, looks about like 5 blocks high. They also have this bunting ability where they shove mobs, and they will be living on these new mountains. And we will be getting the snowier snow, which they're calling powder snow, and when you walk on top of it, you will fall into it. So it's kind of like a trap. Besides that, there will also be tons of snow and ice at the top of these mountains, making it very tough to traverse. I'm really excited to see how big these things get and if they'll be as big as like the shattered savannas, which can generate above 200 wide level. So in the cave update, they are giving us some wide variety of caves. This first one is hidden underneath of this type of trees, and there is a small cave opening, what they are calling Lush Caves. There's a lot of new blocks in here, and in this illustration they have some names for them. Those glowing vines that we've seen coming down, they're called glowberries. So these probably have some type of berry that could be harvested. This is also the thing that's producing all the light in the cave. And because they are vines, they most likely be able to be climbed up and down and will be able to grow automatically. Maybe if you break them off with like a piston, they'll automatically produce the vine itself or the fruit. We've also seen these kind of lily pad looking plants that were coming out of the water. These are drip leaf plant. These plants kind of have these steps on them, which you can step on, but if you stand there for too long, they will tilt and then you'll fall off of them. There's also these little teeny mini azaleas trees, which have these beautiful flowers on them. And this is also the same type of tree that was at the surface, indicating where this cave was at. They are a very beautiful tree, but they don't really produce any major fruit. There's also this flower that was in the ceiling, and they call it a spore blossom. It will be closed and also will open. When it is open, it will emit these particles, very similar to like we've seen in the nether dimension. This is one of my predictions about 1.17 is that they would add the same type of particles we see over there into the overworld. So here's some real in-game footage. We can see that this cave itself is similar to the caves we've seen before, same kind of shape. We do have random water pools sitting on the bottom. This water is even flowing. It's not just like a single source, it's actually a collection of it. Looks like we might have some block over here that could be clay. Stone is around the outside. We do see stuff like andesite, but we do have some new blocks like this block here. Not a grass block. It actually has grass on both sides. And actually all sides, you can see here it's actually on the bottom too. So some new type of grass block. We also see the drip leaf plant, and it must grow because here's one that's the same level as the water. We got some that are a little bit taller, a little bit taller. So a little bit different than kelp. They can actually grow through the water and leave it, producing different heights of these kind of steps. Now some of the vines do have berries on them, some do not. It seems to be dependent on individual blocks. Like this block don't have berries, this one doesn't, and this one does. So most likely be able to right click it and obtain those. We can also see one of the smaller trees, the azaleas. This one doesn't have any blossoms on it. Kind of like a miniature tree, it's all inside of one block. We do see some blocks that we do recognize, such as like the vines, this grass here, and some tall grass in the background. Now this lush cave here, you can kind of see the entire thing is its way. It's not just one piece of it. Wherever you go, you have a lot of green. In this clip here, we can actually see this azalea's tree has some blossoms on it, but there's also a new block in this image here. You might not recognize it, but right here you can see this kind of raised up grass. It's kind of like carpet, but it's actually grass. In this clip here, you can also see it's raised up right here. So kind of a great way to cover up light sources while still making it look like grass on top. In the back of this cave, you can see the spore blossom, which when it's open, you can see the particles which it's producing. You can move the flower to a new area and it will produce the same particles. And most likely any of these blocks changing state from like flower to no flower or berries or opening and closing can probably be detected by like an observer. The dripping leaf plant is growing here without any water at all, but it's growing on some clay. And over here you can see it's growing on dirt, so it probably needs like clay or dirt to grow. This image here shows a good indication of the kind of carpet grass that's placed on top of the stone. Overall, this type of cave brings a lot of life into the whole situation. And in the background here, we can see some other block here. A little bit difficult to tell what it is. And this block also appears behind this blossom here. Maybe some kind of root block where roots are coming out of it. They also explain the uses for the drip leaf, how it kind of makes an automatic floor crumbling mechanic. So here you can see the player kind of climbing up them, and if he sits on them too long, they tilt down by one time, and then if he stays on there even longer yet, they tilt all the way down, and the player will be dropped. So once the player gets to the very top, it will tilt once, and then it tilts again, and the player is dropped all the way down. So this is very unique because it has a collision to keep the player from falling off. Then it also can have that collision be removed. This is all done without redstone. Usually like you need a trapdoor and redstone timings. Now we can make a timer where we can drop different things on top of it. They sit there for so long and then they drop down again and it resets. So it would have quite a few technical uses. But there is a lot of other variations of caves. Here is a really open one where they're taking advantage of all that area that's typically just full of stone, and they're opening it up, making it so you can actually traverse this using even a elytra. Now in this video, they did make the ores glow, but that's not how it's going to be. That was just so people can actually see the dark areas. So overall, the cave generation will be improved. This also means that there's going to be a lot more ores exposed because of more surface area. But they said they also have some of like the kind of typical caves that you would expect. So they also added in something called local water levels. So in some areas, the water level can actually reach different heights within a cave, meaning some of it might be completely submerged. This will make like going after different diamonds and stuff like that harder to do, as you'll have to mine them and stay underneath the water for long periods of time to collect those ores. Now in this clip, you can also see that there's some particles falling from the ceiling. This could be some floating gravel there or even something else. And in this clip here, you can see the floor of this cave looks a little bit weird. It might be like a layer of clay kind of down there. And because of these more open caves, these naturally generated waterfalls form. The caves are so big, you can like fly around them or even like pearl through them. And we can see like this massive cave is really close to the bottom of the road. We've seen some lapis in the walls. It does seem like more of a cave structure with these pillars like holding it up and waterfalls going down to these kind of water lakes. And because the water table can be at different heights, you can actually take your boat and swim across some of these, because they're just so massive. I think this is really cool that they're using the full size of the caves. Here you can see they're actually using this boat to raft off the edge of this waterfall. They're also having larger caves means that you can see mobs coming from more of a distance. They aren't going to be as scared in these type of caves. And the caves are unique kind of to themselves. So some caves might be open like this. Some caves might be really narrow. Some of the big caves might also have that luscious theme added to them. So there's a wide variety of different types of shapes for the caves. And they said that the caves will actually have more variation than the overworld because there's so many different parameters that can be tweaked from cave to cave. So every one looks a little bit different. There's also another type of cave, which is the dripstone caves. You can see the stalactites and the stalagmites. There is sure a lot of them, and they're kind of spread out with different sizes. And if you would like break the top part of this stalactite, the rest of this would fall like a gravity falling block similar to sand. And once it hits the ground, it just shatters and drops as items. Some very unique physics there. And if a mob would happen to fall onto one of these, it will do damage like a spike. This could be used as a new way to kill mobs. And they're calling these blocks dripstones. I'm guessing if you like click above, they just face downwards. If you click down below, they face upwards. It'll be interesting to see if even if you jump on them, if you get hurt. And the stalactites will drip water downwards. So if there's a cauldron underneath, it'll actually automatically fill the cauldron. But we still need a way to automatically pull buckets of water from cauldrons. So maybe they'll add that with the dispensers. There's also some indication that they will actually grow. Ones on ceilings will grow downwards, the ones on the ground will grow upward. There's also another biome which is in the caves, which is at the very deepest part of the world. It's called Kulk Growths. You can see this kind of fungus looking thing that is kind of taking over the grass and slowly spreading. Kind of reminds me of like the corrupt regions of Terraria. And I really like this concept. So this is a new type of block, but there is this thing called a Skulk sensor, which can sense when things go on within range of it. So when like placing down a block, it actually sends out vibrations which are detected by these sensors. Same thing goes when you like break the block. It also can detect those changes. It looks like they can detect this up to about 6 blocks away. Now this is actually a redstone component, which when the player is just walking near it, it activates this piston. You can see the redstone line which is leaving it and powering it. Now the piston itself moving, opening, and closing is also sending signals out. This actually creates an infinite loop. So this can be used for a lot of circumstances like making a clock, or it can also be used for like wireless redstone. And there's also a feature that if there is wool between them, it doesn't create a vibration that goes all the way to it. So him changing this lever was detected, but the piston moving wasn't able to reactivate it. But with the wool removed, you can see him activating this block within range will send a signal, and the piston moving will also send signals back to it. And these things can sense all sorts of things like blocks changing state, players walking, projectiles hitting nearby, and they will also emit this change to their surrounding area. And this can be used to make wireless redstone. Here you can see every one of these sensors, when it goes off, powers the trapdoor, which then makes another vibration and activates this one over here. And then this one sends out a vibration going to the next one and onwards until it activates this one, which powers this dispenser with fireworks. The way that they're spaced out like this kind of indicates their range. It looks about 6 blocks this way, 6 blocks this way, and about 6 blocks up. So probably a 13 by 13 by 13 cube around them. It can detect anything that occurs in there. I have to say this is a really cool redstone device. It will be a great way to kind of detect people in your base without them actually seeing this device, as it can be hidden away. And you can put wool around it to dampen different sides that you don't want it to detect signals from. So it's kind of like wireless tripwire. This can be used in mob farms to see if there's even mobs in the farm before trying to sweep them away. But because the distance isn't that far, we'll probably still use stuff like slimestone and scaffolding and walls to send signals greater distances. I'd love to hear what you guys think this could be used for. And they said they are really looking for feedback on this redstone device, how they could possibly even make it better. Now my biggest concern is that if it creates some kind of loop, and maybe there's a whole bunch of them detecting other ones, it could just make a massive leg machine. We also got a brand new mob inside of the caves. This mob only lives at the very deepest parts of them and is completely blind, so it depends on any vibrations in the area to track down its target. In this clip here, you can see that the light is fading when this mob is around, and it's actually detecting the player moving and stuff. The mob itself looks kind of big. It doesn't have any eyes, but these little antennas that kind of detect the vibrations of stuff that goes on. The projectile made him walk over there, but now the player is walking here, which is producing vibrations. It's using these vibrations that come from the player to detect where the player is at. Every time the player walks, you can see vibrations going out towards him. And it's extremely strong. It reminds you kind of like an iron golem, the way it hits. And the more you try to run, it just produces more vibrations. And you can see that he died to a warden. That is a new mob's name. So there's a lot to take in from this clip here. First off, we can see the stone itself is a new type of stone. It's more of a layer type, maybe like a slate, and encompasses pretty much the entire cave except for the very bottom regions. We can also see there are some black candles here and some white candles over here. They look kind of like typicals, but they could come in different groups. This one's a group of 2 and this one's a group of 3. It also seems that there is a lit candle version and an unlit version. In the background of this cave, we can see some more of this skulk type of block. Now the dimming of the lights don't seem to be actually changing the light levels. I think it's just affecting the player itself. It's not like a potion effect. But this is a good indication that the mob is near you. So here in the bottom of the cave, you can see we have the new skulk blocks, also the skulk sensors, and this block here, which is some variation of skulk. It also definitely seems to have the same kind of skulk theme that we've seen with the other block. It's hard to tell how far it can detect stuff around it. It looks maybe up to like 24 blocks away. You can see when he throws a snowball, it produces vibrations, which then fly back to it, and then it starts walking towards that area. It seems like once he kind of hones on where the player is, he kind of charges right towards them and moves a lot faster. Probably similar to like the speed we see with like Enderman. Now, despite the mob looking quite wide, it appears to be smaller than a 1x1. As he's able to get through this little crack right here, which is only 1 block across. But he appears to be about 3 blocks tall. He could hide in a very small crevice to take on this guy. But he is so strong, and you can see when the player takes 1 hit from him, it does almost 7 hearts. And the guy said he's wearing full netherite gear. Probably unenchanted. So it might be best to try to avoid these guys by walking very quietly around them, not doing anything that will disturb them. Or the alternative thing you could do is kind of block them off so they can't get to you. But with the larger caves, it's harder to block them off. It might be easier just to block yourself off. And in this art, you can see some different ideas they had about it. But in the very center of the mob's chest, it seems like it kind of has like rib cages with what appears to be like eggs or maybe like some souls. Now also in this cave, you can see that this Kulk block is actually spreading over into this kind of stone type right here. So it's kind of like half and half right now. It may probably completely cover it. Now because this mob is like 3 blocks tall, it might not stop people who are like strip mining. And the developers do want the players to have more of a strategy when mining. They'll probably see some things that will make strip mining harder to do. They also added in a new type of like really rare type of cave you can find. Now these amethyst geodes have a very magical feeling when you do find them. And these blocks which kind of surround it will produce these crystals automatically. But the actual blocks cannot be removed from this area. But you can break off the crystals to get crystal shards. They said they want to encourage players to kind of make their farms all over the world and then make transportation ways to get these materials back to their base. This makes me think that they are going to do an update to minecarts so that they're a lot more dependable in transporting things a far distance. Maybe they'll be able to load chunks as they go along. So one of the things you can do with the new crystals is make a telescope. Now this kind of reminds me of Optifine, where you can point at something that you can see stuff from far away. But unlike Optifine, it kind of blacks out all the rest. It does beg the question, what will happen if you would use this with Optifine? Would it be like a double zoom? They probably added this because a lot of people enjoy their zoom with Optifine. But with a telescope, it would take up more room in your inventory. Now the other part of the crystal, which makes up the telescope, is actually copper. So they added copper ore into the game, but they just added in like the typical veins. The veins are actually quite lengthy and large. And the way they described it is that the veins are going to kind of get reworked, so they're like more variety and interesting to come across. Now the copper ore can be used to make copper blocks. We can see there is blocks, slabs, as well as stair variations. And they have a very metallic color, but these copper blocks don't retain their bright color over time. If they are let to sit out over time, they will gradually start to convert into a bluish color. Now the blue color that they turn into actually looks really cool too. It looks a little bit like the prismarine block. Now one of the things you can craft with the copper is a lightning rod. And you can see them adding the lightning rod to this house, and this will divert lightning to the rod. It appears to be doing a really good job. Like you don't see any lightning in the background. It's all coming to this lightning rod. So if it would do like a 10 by 10 chunk area, it could actually prevent lightning from striking your builds made out of wood or wool, any mobs in the area. You wouldn't have to worry about like your villagers converting into witches. I'm actually pretty excited for this because on ProtoTech we have the mob zoo with all the mobs in their display case, and I'm afraid lightning's going to kill them. The next new item that they added in is the bundles, and this is to address the problem with there being too many items in the player inventory. Inventory management is a massive problem. The player is able to put stackable items inside of it by dropping them in there. And it looks like it can hold about 64 items in total, but it doesn't have to be the same amount. Here he does some type of click on it. He either does a right click or something else, and it actually drops all those items directly into his hotbar. But it can also have different variations of items put into one bundle. Here there is 2 different types of blocks, but they're still under 64, so they fit. And then when he clicks on them, once again, they end up in his hotbar. You can also grab the bundle itself and then click on the items that you want to go into it. So here they pick up all these different types of plants. And because they're all really small stacks, you can see the progress bar shows that they're only about halfway full, even though there's a large variety inside. And this display window here makes it really easy to see what's inside. And the bundles can go inside of chests. You can see the not quite full ones from the completely full ones, which are these bulging ones here. The ones that aren't full, you can see the progress bar. And when you hover over top of them, you can see everything that is inside of them, making it really easy to visualize it. Now this is a massive change to inventory management, but it also means we have to rethink how we do it. Instead of carrying full stacks of every single item that we possibly might want to use, we'll have to start breaking those stacks into smaller bunches so that we can have variety while still being able to store it all. But when it comes to bundles, it probably only puts in stuff that is stackable. So stuff like tools wouldn't go in it. So you probably couldn't put like shulker box inside of it. But you could probably put these inside of your shulker box, which means you could store even more variety of stuff within inside of your ender chest, but not necessarily more stuff. And in this bundle here, you can see he does have ender pearls. If we count them up, there is 16 of them. So it's most likely 16 is considered a stack. And here there is some snowballs as well as eggs in there. But it's still going to be kind of cumbersome to like move the stuff around your inventory. When you open one up, which items are going to come out first to fill up your inventory. Then when you want those items to go back in again, you're going to have to click them all back in again. And this most likely affects people that do a lot of building. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the bundles and how they could possibly be improved. We also don't know how we're going to obtain these new things, or if we can just craft them up very easily. It might just be some leather and string and maybe a stone or something. They also had a new system called Archaeology. We can do these archaeological excavations. You can craft these brushes. There's 2 different types, and you use these new items on these new structures, which are these kind of ruined areas that mostly just full of dirt and gravel. But by using your brush on them, you can slowly remove the debris to find something interesting underneath. Now, not all of them will provide anything. It looks like they're taking this gravel down layer by layer. That one didn't have anything in it. Once in a while, you'll get something inside. But if you go too fast, it will actually sometimes break the item. And there it showed a diamond block being uncovered. So here is another gravel block, and as they remove the debris, you can see it's a part of a clay fragment. And these are called ceramic shards, and they're different types of them. This one's a little picture of a dragon. Now, besides just doing this to gravel, you can also do this to some other blocks, such as dirt. This might only be special types of dirt that can only be found in this type of structure. Here is another clay fragment with another little image on it. Now, you do notice that the brush doesn't actually take any durability when they're removing stuff. And here they uncovered a emerald block. When it's completely removed, you actually get the emerald block, which is pretty crazy. It'll be interesting to see what you can all get from this. It might be an easy way, like early game, to be lucky and get something like a diamond block or emerald block. Especially in like speedrunning, you can get these very useful things with maybe just a little bit of time and some luck. But the structure itself seems to be mostly covered up. Maybe only a little bit was showing before they removed all this dirt. There's some obsidian pieces in it as well, and some like kind of structures. It'll be interesting to see what it would look like if we remove this all. They might kind of look like those underwater ruins. And it's hard to tell how much of this is part of the structure and how much was added in later on. With your ceramic shards, you can add them onto these kind of clay pots, which are unfinished, and these added those images onto them just by right-clicking it. You can see it added this Alex, and there's the dragon. But it is still clay, so you need to cook the clay. So with a flint and steel and starting these clay blocks on fire, we'll end up converting this clay into an actual pot. Now, what these pots are used for is a little bit unclear. The images are now plastered onto them. And it does seem like these pots have some unique hitboxes, potentially with these curves here too. Maybe they'll be able to hold water or some other liquid. They also show us another new mob called the nkls. This reminds me of kind of like a sea puppy or a salamander. And these creatures live in these deep caves in the water. You got some more browner looking ones and some more pinker ones. And the player can actually take a bucket of water and scoop these up, very similar to like tropical fish. And they look very cute sitting inside of their bucket. Now the nkls, when you put it back out of the bucket, will kind of be your friend and will try to protect you. So here the player is attacking different stuff underwater, and these things will automatically attack other stuff underwater. And they'll even pretend to be dead if they are hit by a mob. This will fool the mob to no longer attacking them. And during this down period, they can actually regenerate their health and then come back and start attacking again. Besides getting regen themselves, they can also give the player regen when coordinated correctly, but they will essentially attack anything that is in the water. It will be interesting to see if these are kind of considered like a dog and can get those rare loots. If so, you could use these guys in a mob farm. So far we got these 3 mobs. We got the axolotl, we also got the goat, and the warden. And during Minecraft Live, they did the voting. The mob that was a winner was the glowing squid. The first one to go out was the moo bloom. It was a very close race between Iceologer and the glowing squid. Now the glowing squid's features don't seem like they're going to be that great. It will appear to be glowing, but it won't put any light onto the surrounding terrain. Could possibly have the effect that if you look at it, maybe you kind of get stunned, which could cause you to drown. And maybe if it's killed, it'll drop some unique type of glowing dye, which you could use to dye other stuff to make it put off light. But it's really hard to say. All in all, I think it was a very good Minecraft update, especially just to give us a little sneak peek of what they're working on. I think this did live up to the expectations of everybody thinking like, oh man, it has to be something really big, and Caves is really massive. It makes up like, half of the world. Well, actually it makes up the majority of the world. And there's just so much stone down there now that's not being used, like being shown or doing anything with it. So it's really cool. And all the little secrets that they add in, anything to make it rare, will make it funner, bringing new life to mining and like painting blocks. People are always looking for that and ways to help out builders. Definitely going to be interesting to see how they implement some of this stuff, how much life they actually bring to the caves, how much of this stuff has like more connections between them, because they like to put a lot of in-depth stuff to every little thing that they add. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this, all down in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like and share this video with others. And I'll be doing snapshot review videos for all of the 1.17 versions. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.